Learning to be vulnerable. What does it mean, being vulnerable? I think that question may be answered various ways by various people. My definitions would be allowing oneself to be open to disappointment, a possible letdown after sharing details of yourself that others may not understand, admitting and owning your faults in front of others, letting your emotional guard down. Does any of those descriptors align with your definition of being vulnerable? As I delved into what vulnerable meant to me and where I worked desperately to turn off my vulnerability, it took me back to my childhood. I remember hearing, "Don't be such a crybaby," from various outlets. I now realize that those who said those words had lost or suppressed their own vulnerability and could not stand to see others expressing that emotion as it made them feel uncomfortable. Those words, "Don't be such a crybaby," got rooted deep inside me, and when there were moments of vulnerability near, I would work hard in front of others to show it did not have an impact on me, clenching my jaw and saying to myself, "You are not a punk. Deal with your emotions later." You know what? Later didn't come. I just became better and better at suppressing my vulnerability. So much so, it spilled over into every relationship. The quick and snarky jabs that I would give verbally to anyone who thought they were going to penetrate my defense systems. I had become so sharp with my tongue that I don't even know how I had people that wanted to be around me. I would cut you deep with my words because I had learned how to battle verbally to avoid physical altercations. The saying, "sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me," was such a big lie. That was the worst defense statement that could ever have been adopted. As I know now, that words hurt a lot longer than the sticks and stones. The visible and physical hurt from sticks and stones can be patched up, and you can use your mind to help in the healing process. But when your mind is damaged by hurtful words, those are rooted in your being, and you have to work hard to get them uprooted and replaced with words that produce positivity. How do you learn to be vulnerable? I don't have the answer for anyone else but myself. Parts of my return to vulnerability after my failed attempts of trying to get rid of Jamie. There was a point in my youth where I no longer wished to be on this earth. During that time frame, I became pregnant, and the thought of carrying life inside of me caused me to rethink who I was and what I tried to do to myself before I became pregnant. The life that was growing inside me helped me to get rid of some of the bitterness I was carrying. It also forced me to be vulnerable. I didn't want to be mean to this life inside of me. The well being of the baby was way more important than I was to myself. "Jamie, are you saying we have to become pregnant in order to become vulnerable?" Well, yes. I know that some can never physically become pregnant, as I described previously, but you can get pregnant with ideas that you can birth. The gestation period is 280 days, or 40 weeks, or 9 months of seed, nurture, time, birth/harvest. In order to birth something different from what you already have, you must be willing to plant something different and help it to grow to its birthing potential. If your vulnerability was stamped on and told to go away when you were younger, it is going to take some time for you to restore and accept that side of you. The getting to know you, the vulnerable side of you, can be tricky at times because it feels unnatural at first, as you have trained yourself out of this vulnerability process. Most often, we are in search of our long lost vulnerability side, and we end up in dangerous territory because we haven't healed before we go out socializing. It is okay to be vulnerable with you. It is okay to be vulnerable with those you trust. It is okay to have vulnerable moments with those you lead. It is okay to be vulnerable sometimes in front of those you may even consider to be your foe. Really, Jamie? Yes, really. Why? Because being in touch with your vulnerability in front of a foe will give off the warning sign that I am not afraid to hold back this emotion, so I am not afraid of holding back anything else that is inside of me. My fight is stronger than my vulnerability. Are you willing to be vulnerable with you? That is the first step in accepting your vulnerability.